In today's episode, we dive into a critical topic for businesses and IT managers, the Windows 11 upgrade. With expert insights, we'll discuss strategies for resellers and partners on how to best navigate this transition while adding value for their customers.
We're all excited to hear about the Windows refresh, so moving on to 11. And really what I want sort of your advice really as a master trainer, how do you think I should approach my partners without trying to be too salesy, if you want to call it that, to sort of almost make sure that they are moving in that direction with Microsoft to do the upgrade to 11?
No, that's a great question. And I like the way you phrased it, actually, because it's all about how you express to help your customers, your partners, to express the message as well. And as a training organisation, we deliver, me and my team, this messaging to so many resellers, and we have to help them in their journey. The first thing that comes up really is that, as you'd expect, it's the whole "what's in it for me" conversation before you get them interested in all the key points about how great Microsoft is, and Microsoft with specifically Windows 11, and it is, and we'll talk about those things. Before we cover those, it's like, well, why would anyone care? So the question really is, what is driving your partners? And normally the answer to that one is, well, they have to sell something. And quite often what they're rewarded on is selling devices, selling things. Resellers care about that. They care about selling something. Well, most sellers not just care about selling something, but they obviously want to provide a great service to their customers because they know that's what's going to come back. But first and foremost, some of them might be told to make a certain number of calls. So that's one of the things we talk about, which is who are you talking to? What do they care about, your customers' customers? And, I'm going to leap straight forward to the Windows refresh opportunity and need, and why we talk about that. Because the one thing that we do know is that most of the world will understand that Windows 10 will be going into support in about a year's time. We have a date ringed around. It may be different, but it's, the date we have is the October the 14th, 2025. So why would people care about that? And then the thing that we talk about most is how can people have a meaningful conversation with their customers, the end customers, that isn't simply, you've got to do it because you're going to run out of time. And then from there, what that means to them in terms of selling product.
And I think spec or change of sort of operating system or security upgrade, etc. aside, I think customers now, or when I say customers, I mean resellers, they almost want that longevity with their end users. But then I also think that end users are looking for more than just price availability now. So they can obviously buy a device, but then say reseller A says, okay, well, you can have it for this cost, and then reseller B says, well, I can beat that by etc. Or cut a quid under or whatever, and they win that deal. But it's not really giving that end user any true value. So of course, Windows upgrade, yes, I realise that's certainly something that needs to happen. Many benefits, such as obviously security enhancements, or even the introduction of AI, which I think we should definitely touch on.
Well, I think you made a really good point there. It's about having that conversation alongside one thing. So, the experience that we have, the experience I have, is that just talking about the Windows refresh and the need to do it, the operating system, is insufficient. It's a good starting point in many ways to have that conversation about everything that the end user cares about, whether it's sustainability or the lifecycle services or just productivity. And productivity is the area that I think that most people that I've spoken to kind of really understand, because we say, okay, this is a fact. You need to go and speak to your customers about that. But the way to start the conversation is often not, did you know this is happening? But what is your plan to cope with the fact that this is happening? People know about it. So what's your plan? And it's a good way of getting the initial conversation going that shows, as a reseller looking after an end customer, that they care about something more than just a quick deal. So, what is it you care about? They ask the customer, and they say, well, we know it's coming up, but our plan is to do X, Y, Z. Well, they may need some support with that, but the next question is, well, when are you doing it, and why have you got those times, and what's your business look like, and Have you found that you've got lots of other things? So there's all these conversations that come up, but one of them is this, and you've already touched on it, but it's really important to make it clear that moving to Windows 11 doesn't necessarily require that devices are updated.
Mm-hmm.
Only certain devices will need to be. But it does require that if you're going to look at it after a whole estate, and this is the conversation that resellers should have, that you need to assess where are you and then plan it. And it's only the very oldest devices that don't have TPM 2.0, we all know about that can't need it. But the moment you get to that conversation, you'll say, well, actually, let's just talk about what Windows 11 will bring you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many things. Security is one of them. But productivity, as an example, is very important. People will need to be more productive. Those are the questions you mentioned. It's a while ago now, isn't it? Because of COVID was 4 years ago, but it fundamentally changed the way people behave. We're still talking about it in the sort of product training world, this modern times with the remote workforce, hybrid workforce. But it's true. We are in that world, and it's still a problem. How do we manage a remote workforce? How do we manage the fact that we may not have as many people in those roles? It may be that the whole world, your customers, have become used to outsourcing certain services.
Mm-hmm.
That's a productivity thing. So we can talk about that in a second, and I probably will give you some stats, but support desk tickets, something that is more intuitive and easier to use and can migrate in a trouble-free way, raises fewer support issues. Now, why is that important? Well, the support desk, the IT support, is probably smaller in terms of the sheer number of people.
Mm-hmm.
They're having a hard enough time keeping up with what they're currently doing. So they're going to care about, is it easy to deploy? Is it easy to deploy? Yes, it is. They're going to care about, is it easy to support? Yes, it is. And then overall productivity. But I'm in danger of saying everything all at once here. The moment we're talking about a hybrid workforce, an organisation that may have changed, having to do different things, pressures on the IT departments, support departments in particular, mean that they may be talking about services. What services can the partner bring that will relieve that pressure? And straight away, the seller, the salesperson, is having a conversation about what matters to the end customer, their pain points, that started with a Windows refresh October 2025 conversation, now has gone through productivity, now has talked about support desk and the pressures, the hybrid workforce, and they're having a meaningful conversation. And they've got something to offer that isn't just as you said at the beginning, here's the best price, it's on the shelf today, but why don't we look after these services for you? Why don't we look at the way you're doing things?
Yeah.
Why don't we help you? All these bigger conversations. And that's, I guess, where, you come in. You can see I'm excited about it, but I'm not talking about 68% of people say they're going to embrace AI. It's true, they will. But that's not the point. It's the conversations that can be had.
Yeah. And in a sort of a previous role, we talked a lot with the IT manager of what his or her priorities are. So what's going to cost your organization money or time if it breaks down, as an example. And a lot of the conversation is, of course, around cybersecurity. And then quite a lot of the conversation is around network downtime, as an example.
Yep.
So I guess the way we would almost position it is, okay, well, as the IT manager, if you're managing, or most of your time should be maintaining your network, making sure that you're secure, safe, efficient, etc., what are the other things that you're, as an IT manager, you have to look after? And one of them is always devices. And that's often the one that's, I don't want to say overlooked, because it isn't, but it's potentially looked at as a commodity still, potentially. So it's exactly right. It's that, okay, we need to sell the idea of the upgrade, i.e., yes, the advanced cybersecurity, etc., or advanced security on the devices themselves, but it's exactly what you mentioned there. How do we manage that estate with you, for you, etc., to give you as minimal downtime as we possibly can?
Yep.
But I also thought about cost as well. So, of course, to ask a customer, and again, I know you mentioned it's not always necessary to replace all of the devices, but if it so happens that all of the devices do need replacing, it will come down to, okay, well, how on earth do we finance this? So It's really then to start us introducing, say, Ingram Finance as an example, so that then again that takes that burden away, gives them a monthly payment and all that sort of stuff. So I hope, I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so this comes up a lot actually, because you've got two things that go side by side here. One is the financing of the decision when they make it, and you can help them. That kind of makes sense. But the second one, just prior to that, is how do we justify it? What is the ROI? Everyone talks about ROI, don't they? And that itself is also coupled going backwards with what model had already been in place to account for the older devices. Because invariably, someone would have, not invariably, it's highly likely that someone may have said, well, let's make an investment over time, maybe, in some devices, and let's spread that cost over a notional 5 years, and we're going to amortize it over that. I may have used the wrong word there. But you know what I mean. So account for it over that period. So they may still have a book value. So there's a challenge for them to overcome that. So the very first thing we have to do is say, what is the actual value of upgrading your device and going to Windows 11 in terms of productivity? Not even putting a number on the security issues, but just productivity. And very quickly. And we've got data that we share where people show, there's only examples, but there's examples where people have made like a 250% return on investment within 3 months because of the increased productivity, better communication, fewer downtime, better focus time because of all the tools around. Once you've got that argument out the way, okay, we recognize the value of doing it. We can see a number, and therefore you may as well do it straight away. Now we just need to pay for it today. And that's where the financing point comes in. So the two arguments, let's look at the increased productivity as one example. It's not the only one. It's just one way to go. It shows that it will pay for itself if you do it. Yeah. It's good to use modern devices anyway, because they are more energy efficient. We know they're going to be more performant, but allowing you to have the extra features of Copilot, for instance, AI built into Windows, and the modern way of working. Fewer support tickets. I already mentioned that. Why? IT department under pressure make the decision to refresh all their devices. They have to deploy those devices. And depending on the size of the organization, historically, go back 5 years, they'd have been unboxing things, literally unboxing them. Box would turn up in the warehouse, unbox they go. They'll be building the operating system if that's what they had to do. But if it's even pre-built, they'd be putting a user profile on it and deciding where to go. They may package it up again and have to ship it out to the user. It's a really, really heavyweight thing. Whereas today, you, Ingram, you'll be able to probably help them with this, sending those devices directly to the users and using the features. I think it's, I have to be careful with this, Autopilot might be Intune. I'll check that in a second.
Yeah, it's a bit of both.
Bit of both.
Yeah, Autopilot. Autopilot, Intune, enrollment, yeah.
Enrollment, there you go.
Yeah.
All I know is people get excited about the idea that the IT department don't get involved in having to go to goods in, unboxing things and deploying things. It's just one small thing. But the whole journey, again, from a sales point of view, one of the most challenging things we talk about is what holds a buyer back from that final decision. They know it makes sense. What stops them? And this is where you can just speak to your resellers. It's normally the fear of what happens next. If I place this order, what's going to happen next? It's Armageddon. Things turn up. Suddenly, I'm going to have to deal with all these older devices. I'm going to have to pay for it or justify I paid for it. What happens if I can't support all these things? Fear. It's natural, isn't it? So supporting an end customer on that journey, either with your own services or the features that are built into Windows 11 that will make it much better anyway. Those two things together can help overcome that fear and maybe shorten the sales cycle, frankly.